just some basic tools, teaching tools. I know there's a heightened interest in end time because of what's happening this past week. There's a lot going on in the Middle East, and so a lot of people are kind of coming alive to the end time that maybe were kind of indifferent toward it before. It's an opportune time to get some real solid teaching out. Now we want to just emphasize here this morning the reality that most people are delusional when it comes to end time Bible prophecy. I mean, they've swallowed hook, line, and sinker the fables of classic Scofield Darbyism, which is built upon Sir Robert Anderson's 19th century erroneous theory of interpreting Daniel's prophecy 70 weeks. Now, this has been the core of our ministry for 30 years or more, and those of you who are following us are well aware of that, so we're not going to belabor that this morning. But there are new people that come aboard and they wonder, what in the world, what are we do? How do we present Bible prophecy? Well, we don't present classic Darbyism. Now, let's just give a little rundown on classic Darbyism. Classic Darbyism is a popular idea that we're cruising along business as usual, and then all at once, without warning, boom, the church is raptured out. Okay, that's supposed to be the beginning of the so-called future 7-year Great Tribulation period. Well, where does that idea come from in Scripture? Well, it comes out of Sir Robert Anderson's novel theory of the 70 weeks. You see, the future 7 years is presumably Daniel's future 70th week. Now, that's an interpretation, and it's not valid, but most people believe it. So that's the basis of the 7-year tribulation, even though the New Testament never mentions that. It's kind of strange how people can be so convoluted, so headstrong about something that's really so stupid, you know. I mean, they're stuck in a gestalt of a 7-year tribulation, clueless that this construct or this time frame is not one time mentioned in the entire New Testament. I mean, wake up call, you know. So you're dealing with about a bunch of dumb thinking, traditionalism. People are just out of it. They're full of cognitive dissonance because the mentality or the theory, the worldview that the theory creates is not going to materialize. So you have a lot of chaotic people who, and here's what they believe. We're going up in the rapture. Any conceivable random moment, we just be ready. You're going up, and then that's a key turning point, because after the church is raptured out, then the 7 years begins, and in the classic Darbyism, it's always about the Antichrist making and breaking. I like those words, kind of a little rhyme there, making and breaking. So it's all about the Antichrist making and breaking the peace treaty with the Jews, presumably that constitutes the 7-year tribulation. Well, that's a bunch of baloney, but that's what they believe, and you can't persuade them otherwise until they do some academics to understand that Christ, not Antichrist, is the divinely intended coming to the 70th week. Well, they're not going to go there because it would blow their whole theory. See, so they've got to cling to this mirage. So we're dealing with this kind of a conflict here, but let's just get through it. Okay, so you have the 7-year tribulation and in classic Darbyism. And of course you have the Antichrist being revealed and sitting in the rebuilt Jewish temple in the midst of Daniel's 70th week. So that's the basis for the idea that the temple must be rebuilt. Goes to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The man of lawlessness, the Antichrist, sitting in the rebuilt temple. Well, the New Testament is not talking about a rebuilt Jewish temple in Revelation chapter 11 verse 2, or even in 2 Thessalonians. The temple of God is the church of Jesus Christ. And the man of lawlessness is antinomianism, or lawlessness ensconced in the church. And of course we have that now, and the worldly backslidden. It's so ironic. A worldly backslidden church. Nobody living a godly life, worldly as all get out, no dress standard, no godly living, worldly backslidden churches expecting to be removed in the rapture. Well, that just doesn't add up morally or ethically. Nobody's going to heaven that's not living a holy life. So you're not going to be removed from anywhere before any time frame of 7 years. You're delusional, friend. And I know you take offense, but get over it, Reality is impinging. Okay, so let's back out now and just look at this objectively. So here you have here this 7-year time frame. It's all about the Jews, see, and they're supposed to be converted to Christ after the hardships of the Antichrist dealings with them. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Now, logically, it implies. Now, think with me logically, if you can. I know some people can't think logically, but if you can think logically, just hear me out. Now, if the second coming of Christ, if the Jews are predestined to get saved in the end time, why can't they get saved now? I mean, what prevents any Jew or anybody from getting saved now? I mean, the Bible does say today is the day of salvation. Well, what this does is it makes the will of God subservient to the will of man. In other words, it's like the Jews saying to God, well, we don't accept Jesus as the Messiah now, like we should, but we will later. We pick and choose the time when we get saved. It's going to be in the 7-year tribulation. I heard Janet Parshall on Moody Radio give this nonsense. She was describing the 7-year tribulation, and she was describing, the end of the 7 years. The Antichrist was going to ride down from heaven on a white horse to rescue the Jews in the nick of time before the Antichrist could annihilate them. Here comes Jesus. Gallop up. Rescue the Jews. Well, that's just fiction to the highest order. People are so stupid, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves for such a nonsensical theory. It has no foundation in reality. Jesus didn't go to heaven on a white horse. He's not coming back on a white horse. Okay, so all that is just false worldview. Well, then let's conclude the Darbyite scenario with, of course, what's most important is, the conversion of the Jews and Jesus coming back to set up the earthly kingdom. It's a return to Judaism for all practical purposes. I mean, it's supposed to be, Jesus is supposed to be revealed to the Jews as the Messiah that they rejected at his first advent. But here again, it's the idea that he didn't meet their expectations, in the first advent. So they rejected him. It's kind of like, well, now he's going to offer them the same misguided expectations